Okay, so I have something a little different for you today. I have a commentary, an evaluation, even in some ways, of an estranged sibling, a little sister. And so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to play the video and then I'll do some commentary throughout. I want to preface this by saying this is what I'm talking about when I say that content creators out there who are estranged parents are doing damage to people by helping them double down on their very narrow-minded viewpoint. This is the kind of person that I'm talking about. So, and I'm not throwing shade on this person. Their experience is their experience and all this, that, and the other. But I have a feeling for all my scapegoats out there, this is going to sound really familiar to you. And I encourage you to comment in what you think about it. All right, let's get into it, shall we?
I have very recently stumbled across the site of TikTok where they address adult-child parental estrangement. I mean, an adult child estranges themselves from either both parents, one parent, whatever, and goes no contact. The parent no longer gets to have a relationship with them, and the parent doesn't get to have a relationship with grandchildren. And I am going to tag 4 or 5 of the creators that I have followed on here, and they're all women, because thank you, ladies. Thank you for shining light on this epidemic that I did not know was an epidemic. And thank you for being so courageous to put your story, your truth out here for all of us to see, to help understand what's going on with this epidemic. Because as much support as y'all get, which I see a lot, I also see a lot of hate and a lot of trolls that know nothing about y'all's situation, but they want to interject their opinion anyway. Well, I can tell just by looking at you why your children are estranged from you. Thank you for being brave, and thank you for continuing to put your message out there.
So when I came across this video, I immediately knew, and you'll see it takes a while for her to get into her own story, I immediately knew that she had some experience with estrangement. Using, the words of they don't get to have a relationship with their grandchildren. Well, if they're toxic parents and they're not safe as parents and they're not doing the things that they need to do to be safe and loving and model good behavior for their own adult child, of course, they have now made it so that they cannot have relationships with their grandchildren. But the way she words it, subtle, not subtle, it has a feeling of, well, you don't want to be in your life, my life, but like I have a right to the grandchildren. There's a vibe here, right? There's an energy here. And then she's like thanking them for being so brave and so courageous, and people come at them, and I can just tell by looking at you. No. It isn't by looking at you. And I'm sure they get some comments like that. Listen, I get all sorts of stuff. So I'm not saying they don't. I am saying, though, because I do read the comment section oftentimes of these videos that come up for me, I'd like to see what, who's following, what they're saying, what the majority is, and all that. So it's of interest to me. And what she's missing the boat on already is the fact that what these content creators are talking about, the way that they're speaking, well, they should be grateful, and and I didn't have the perfect parent handbook, and the words that they use really show why they're still estranged and why they're going to continue to be estranged. But she's missing the boat on that one, right? She's just thanking them for being so courageous, because adults don't set the tone of the relationship with their children. Children do, after all, right? Yeah, okay, let's keep going. It only gets better and better, or worse and worse, as the case may be.
And to help educate those of us who are perhaps standing a little bit outside that situation, but it has still happened in your family, and it's heartbreaking, and I really appreciate y'all's truth and your education, and the fact that you continue standing up and saying, this is not right, and we need to support one another. And
I'm going to include who she tagged in here, and that way anyone out there can go look at their content. Please, we're not, doing a shade thing or anything. I'm going to do what I always do when I'm doing like an overview of somebody else's content that I feel like they could be attacked for. I'm gonna put them anonymous and all that, but I am going to list who she's attaching to. And interestingly enough, 2 of them have blocked me. One of them is Fired Mom, and she blocked me because when she came at me ages and ages ago, I didn't meet her with the venom she was trying to pull out of me. I didn't meet her with anything but a rebuttal to defend myself, of course, but in the way that I normally do, very constructively. And if I can dig them up and find the videos, I'll do a whole series on that and break it down. Fired Mom at the time was, I think, Estranged Parents Are Us. She's had different handles. She's had accounts taken away. She blamed me for mass reporting her account. I never once reported her account. I don't report accounts unless I see child abuse or somebody in physical danger. I report family vloggers on the regular all the time. But somebody coming at me, I don't bother. You're not important enough for me to block you. Anyway, every time she creates an account, I happen to know that she blocks me. And I looked again, and sure enough, she blocked me. The other one, I don't even know who it is. So, what I can't see, what I don't know, well, I'm perfectly fine with that. I have to feel a little bit like the other person that blocked me probably has done something with my videos, because that's happened in the past with some of these people. And the thing with Fired Mom, she started it. She took one of my things out of context and had a big label on me that said toxic. And I was like, wait a minute, if you're going to feature the video, you feature the whole video kind of thing. All right, let's continue.
We need to try to help heal, and, what can we do? How can we help this? How can we change this? My sister and I were the only 2 children that my mom and dad had. She's 4.5 years older than me. And we were raised exactly the same way, in exactly the same home, with exactly the same parents. They did not treat one of us one way and one of us the other. We had the exact same experience growing up. We grew up in rural Arkansas.
We had the exact same parents. We had the exact same experience growing up. Girl, your sister's 4.5 years older than you. You have no idea who your parents were at the time that she was born. I'm a mother of 3. My first child, I was 17. My second child, I was 20. My third child, was I 20? Yeah, I was 20. I have to think. My third child, I was 26. Do you think I was the same parent from 17 to 26? But your mind can't even conceptualize that your sister might have actually, and indeed actually did have, a different experience. But you cannot make the space for that, which tells me why what's happening is happening. Let's continue on.
Rural Arkansas to lower middle class. My dad was a truck driver. My mom was a stay-at-home mom and Sunday school teacher and PTA president and Girl Scout den mother, and we took piano lessons. We were high achievers in school. We always made good grades. We were good kids. It was pretty much an idyllic upbringing, I'm sure a lot of people would say. And was there abuse? No. Was there neglect? No. Were we ever hungry? No. Did we ever go without clothing? No. And were our parents violent? Were our parents, did they argue? No. No. Daddy came home every night from work, and we didn't have to worry about him coming home drunk and trying to beat up on somebody or something. No. We had a very nice, peaceful, tranquil existence. And my sister never liked me. I don't really know that has anything to do with it. And I was fine with that. 4.5 years behind her, I didn't really care that she didn't like me, but I was always known as Carla's weird little sister. And, that's fine. We were almost polar opposites, physically, personality-wise, and everything. We were just very, very different. But our parents treated us exactly the same. And we lost my dad when I was 20 and my sister was 24, and it was traumatic. And and there was a lot of healing and grief and all that had to go on around that. And my tough as nails, but, sweet as sugar mother pulled herself up by her tiny little size 7 bootstraps, and she continued on with life as best that she could without my dad, and was incredibly functional, went back to work, had a great career, because she was only 49 when he died. And I was incredibly proud of my mom for carrying on the way she did. And it was kind of around then that I started hearing little snippets of judgment from my sister when I would talk to her.
Is anyone out there getting a good sister, bad sister vibe going on? A lack of empathy for one sister going on? My sister never really liked me, but that was okay. I didn't mind that. And we were treated completely equally. Everything was the same. It shouldn't have been the same. If that was the case, actually that's wrong, because developmentally both girls were in different places due to the 4.5-year age gap. But they were exactly the same. They got exactly the same parents. Like, she is really, really, really holding on to that. She doesn't recognize, and she's watching the wrong content because she's not going to recognize that the way that children, siblings, look at each other is based on the opinion, both role modeled and verbalized, of the parent. So if the parent has any exception with one child over the other will also have exception with that child, for starters. The way that siblings form empathy for one another or not is also based on that same role modeling. Siblings aren't just automatically close because they fight, right? They pick on each other. They have to share their parents. They're displaced by the birth of the other one and all of that. And as parents, we're supposed to teach our children how to love one another, how to have empathy for one another. And what's also great about that is the way that we teach them to form relationships with each other is the way that they also go out into the world with that same skill set, whatever that looks like. Okay, I'm going to continue. She's very well spoken, I'll give her that. She's a good storyteller, I'll also give her that. But okay, I'm gonna go. I'm going. I'm hitting the button.
Do you know what our mother has been doing? I'm like, what? She's been running around with people, going dancing and motorcycle riding and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, is she happy? Well, I don't know. I said, if she's happy, then fine. What, is she doing something to trouble you? Well, she's doing stuff that she would have never let us do as teenagers. So, well, she's not a teenager. She's a grown woman who is widowed and is trying to find where her place in the world is again. So I started hearing snippets of that kind of judgment that my sister didn't approve of our mother anymore for some reason. And my sister and I sort of developed a semi-close relationship after I had The Apprentice, I guess, because we were both mothers at that point. So I'm in my 40s, she's in her 50s. And I learned a little bit more about her in that I found out she carried a lot of grudges, particularly for members of our family that didn't acknowledge all of her high achievements in her life. And that she held a lot of grudges for that. She held some grudges of saying the men in our life never supported her in the way she needed to be supported.
The language, grudges. Isn't that what they say to you when you're trying to tell somebody how your feelings are hurt and how you're like trying to process that and how you felt about, well, in this case, how people did or didn't support her? But it's called grudges. Do you hear the closeness of her? The judgment, ironic that she used the word, right? A little projection going on. The judgment that she held towards her sister because her sister dared to complain about things that bothered her and hurt her. Did you hear that? I hope you heard that because I certainly did. Okay.
I never really understood that. I was like, what kind of support did you need? Because we had, everything from my parents, from grandparents and aunts and uncles and stuff. So I don't really know.
So I don't really know. I don't really know, and I'm not going to ask because I don't really want to know.
I did. This was in 2018, 2019. I went through a process of participating with a women's group that helped get rid of some old trauma and old patterning things, that you drag around from childhood and early adulthood that you don't really realize is dysfunctional. And didn't realize I didn't finish grieving that. I didn't realize that I've never really processed that weirdness that happened. And ultimately, I spent 4 days, kind of a spiritual marathon, if you will, with 20 other women from all over the world out in the side of a mountain in Colorado. And there was lots of tears and there was lots of snot and all that. But we left a whole lot of old traumas and stuff out there and lightened our load from that and carried on.
Did she just admit to childhood trauma, weirdness, after painting that very idyllic, peaceful, tranquil childhood? And she went to a retreat to deal with it. Good on her that she went, somewhere to deal with something. But I mean, so if she had some trauma and she was treated identically from her parents, then why can't she connect the dot? Yeah. It's killing me. I hope she doesn't go out there talking more on this topic. I really do. Okay. All right. Let's just keep going.
My sister was more fascinated about that process than anyone else in my life, which kind of led me to believe, okay, well, she's got some old trauma she needs to heal too. I was pretty sure she had never completely grieved my father.
Pretty sure she never completely grieved our father. Not that she also had childhood trauma. She was just pretty sure that she had not grieved the father.
And, but then all of a sudden she became very uninterested in it and didn't want me to talk about it anymore. This was right around the time, this is 2019, right around the time that she and my brother-in-law sold their very successful business and were able to retire and wouldn't have to work again the rest of their life. They're very secure. Everything seemed to go haywire from there. My mother started calling me in tears, saying, I can't seem to really communicate with your sister anymore, and when I go up there and visit, I don't really feel like a part of their family anymore. It's almost like I've done something wrong, and I can't figure out what I've done wrong, and if I try to ask or talk about it, she won't talk about it. And you can see kind of where this was going. And it just continued going down, and contact became less and less and less between my sister and my niece and my mother. I had a little bit of contact with them, not a whole lot anyway. So like I said, I'm kind of standing on the outside looking at this. And it's just gotten worse and worse. And we even tried together with my sister and my niece to say, whatever we have done that has upset you to make you want to not spend time with us anymore, allow us to apologize for that. And really, they couldn't come up with anything more than, last few times I've spoken to Mom on the phone, she's just talked harshly to me. Okay, well, let's do some conflict resolution. Let's have a difficult conversation, do some conflict resolution, see what we can come up with. No, they don't want to do that. They don't want to have a difficult conversation.
No, they don't want to have a conversation with a wall that says we had exactly the same childhood. Nothing happened to you. That's what they don't want. That's what her sister didn't want. It wasn't about not having a conversation. I get it. I wasn't there, but I'm here for the language she's using now. Even when she's talking about her sister going to that retreat, she identifies it as an event in her young adulthood, nothing from her childhood or what was going on there. And saying to someone, when you're talking to us, you're not talking to us nicely or well, that is telling what's going on. That is telling you what's wrong. But people like this want actual receipts instead of looking at the big picture. People like this want to be able to pick apart each and every incident so that they can devalue the other person's experience and then say, look, I had the talk with you. That's not a talk. That's not conflict resolution. That's just BS. That's a waste of time for somebody who's been trying to make things work and not being heard. And I have a feeling the vibe that I get is this sister, the one who went no contact, didn't want to go to that retreat because it sounds to me like maybe it was kind of a quick fix, like a bit of a like a woo-woo-ish kind of one. Maybe it wasn't, but I also get a vibe from this creator's platform of things that I've seen. She's the parent that homeschools and all that, not throwing shade on all the homeschoolers out there. However, we do know there are a lot of narcissistic parents that use homeschooling to have ultimate control over their children. So there are some problems within that system of raising your kids. It lacks protections and check-ins when it's not done correctly in particular. But that being said, the vibe of this woman's platform is very kind of granola, woo-woo, that sort of thing. And I would imagine, based on what she's sharing, that her sister maybe, hopefully went to therapy, by the way, because I can see why she would have needed it, but didn't want to go into something that was more of like a quick fix, pour it all out with 20 people I don't know. Group therapy, like I run group therapies, I have clients who go to retreats of all different types and find tremendous value in them. But going to a retreat is not a replacement for therapy when you have gone through a trauma hood. It's not. There's not enough consistency. It is highly effective and helps a tremendous amount. Like, it's life-changing. I went to group therapy when I was in my 20s, and it was a game changer for me. I was also going to regular therapy. I was also on medication because I wanted not to be on this planet anymore, trying to turn myself right side up from all the trauma hood I had experienced. So anyway, let's continue on, because I'm going to lose my train of thought out of frustration and just irritation.
We don't want to have any conflict. Everything, I guess, is supposed to be sunshine and roses. I wasn't really aware that God told us that, oh, your entire life here on this earthly realm is going to be sunshine and roses. My mother turns 89 this September. My sister and my niece live an hour and a half from her. I live 9 hours from her. They don't contact. They don't come see her. They can't be counted on by me if something happens to Mom to be there for her. I have other cousins that are willing to be there for her until I can get the 9 hours from here to her house if she needed me. It breaks my heart to watch my mother try to piece together what she did wrong at any point of her life that made my sister decide that my mother was no longer good enough for her or my niece. I would love nothing more than to have a couple of hours to give my sister down the road about how she's hurt my mother, but I know that's not going to help. Thank you, ladies, again, for making this public, for speaking your truth, and for being courageous about saying it. Thanks for helping us all head in a direction of healing.
I'll leave you with one thought. Tell me you're the golden child without telling me you were the golden child. Oh, wait, sorry. One more thought. So I went through the comments section. I'll probably post some of it on this individual's profile. And not one person, not one, pointed out the fact that it was impossible for them to have the same parents. And how would she know, given that she's 4.5 years younger? They all drank the Kool-Aid, and they all, well, many of them were definitely estranged parents because they were talking about their own estrangements, and some of them were estranged siblings. It just goes to show you how these people band and group together. And then she talks about, thank you for helping us with our healing. This is not healing. This is continuing to allow you to hold firm to the belief system that you have that actually is continuing to keep your relationship a non-relationship. And that's why I cannot stand these content creators that are continuing to share their experiences and, talk about their kids being ungrateful and things like that, because they are providing a community for people who are vulnerable. This woman, I look at her as being a vulnerable person looking for her tribe so she can keep her head in the sand and tell herself she's a good person. And I think that's sad.